Stop carrying cute gear that's not going to save your life. I'd like to ask you a question today. Who's going to get more work done? Someone who uses a cute little saw like this, or someone who uses a larger saw like this? Who's going to get more wood by the end of the day? Who's going to get less fatigued? And who's going to actually be able to get a camp set up before dark? Stay tuned and find out. Just look at how difficult it is to start a fire in these conditions. How can you start a fire on a day like this with all these iced over branches? The odds are against you. Welcome to another episode of For You to Survive. I don't want anybody to be offended or feel bad, but sometimes using cute little survival items is the wrong way to go. Yes, it's better than nothing if that's all you have, but it may be killing you in the long run. Here's an example. We usually like these cute little saws. They fit in pack nice in our kits, but is that the best move we can make? If you're going out and you know you're going to be out in the outdoors, why don't you take something that's actually going to do the work? I upgraded. I have the Silky Big Boy 2000, and it cuts a whole lot more. And yes, I know how to use this saw, but everybody gets tired. I got tired once, and after a lot of sawing, I twisted accidentally, and boom, I lost some of the tip. Well, what if I would have lost some of the tip on this one? I have even less cutting surface, so there's a tremendous amount more cutting potential. Sure, this is bigger, but I can do so much more with this saw, even broken. Here's another example. I got this buck saw. This is a nice buck saw. It opens up. You take this out. I usually have the blade facing down so I can take it out without hurting myself. Twist it around. The pivot goes inside. Put it inside. Snap it in, and there you go. You got a saw that's nose to fingertip, and that's actually pretty good. And you can do a lot of work with this kind of saw. It gives you about a hand, a little bit, not a full hand, but pretty close to a hand span of a sawing distance on all sides. You can even do the one where you step on the saw blade and you go up and down with the wood. On the improvised world, you can make your own. And it's actually nose to fingertip. I've sawed a lot of wood with this. I have this in another video. You tension it up by turning it. And when you store it, have just a little less tension in there. But yeah, this is a full, it's a full hand span of distance between the blade and the saw frame, so I've cut a lot of wood with this. That's the point. You can do a lot more with the longer, bigger tool. And not only that, how do you take something like a buck saw with you? Well, for me, I got a saw blade belt. I had this in another video, but this goes with me, and I don't even know I have it. One of the problems I had was these key rings. Both of the key rings took some damage, but one's worse than the other. I also have the option of wearing this around the outside of my wool. So now I have access to my saw. I know it's here. To keep it protected, I usually put it inside my jacket. If you're worried about the bulk and weight of these saws, especially for a day hike, because day hikers are going to be the ones going out and not really planning on using a lot of tools and doing a lot of stuff. Something like this, you have it with you. You got the saw blade in this belt, ready to go. Yes, you got to have the know-how to make a buck saw, but, well, this is for emergencies, and that's why you train. I upgraded to thicker, larger key rings that are stronger. So I got this at a key shop. So this is serious. Hardware stores also have key rings that are stronger than this. So these little thin key rings, they could fail you at the moment of truth. Now there's a certain group of you who've been in the military And if you've thrown grenades, you can use grenade pins. And I have 2 here, so that could be on the end of the buck saw. Here I have a nut and a bolt holding the blade in, but you can also use a grenade pin. So if you're a hard charging Marine or someone in the military who has access to grenades, save some pins. They could come in handy later. Hoorah, Marine Corps! Another amazing saw option would be the Silky Katana Boy 500. This saw can do a lot of work. It has its safety. It opens up, put it on. This is a serious blade that can do serious work. It's a balance between how heavy it is, how long it is, and how much work it can do. There's larger ones on the market, but would it be too long to be convenient? You don't need a blade that can't get the job done, so you got to find the balance between just big enough and small enough. This one has a safety. Push it again, you close it, screw it in there to lock it in, and there you go. I put a lanyard because my personal rule is I don't like to set this on the ground, so I'll hang this in a tree when I'm done, and I always like to put this folded together so it doesn't just sit around. That's a hand span size piece of wood. I don't know about you, but that's how you want to get through wood so you can make a shelter. Now, would you be carrying this kind of saw for a day hike? Probably not. That's where you need the buck saw blade in the belt. So, being realistic about it, it's that day hiker that's going to get into trouble. The day hiker is the one who's not going to bring the sleeping bag, the tent, the sleeping pad, all this other stuff, the tarp, the water filter, because they plan on going out for a day, coming back the same day. Anything over a day, people are going to be more prepared. So we have to think of it in that context. People who go out for a day, they're probably the most vulnerable group. So some simple basic preparations will keep them safe. Here's a wire saw. And I don't know how many of these I broke as a teenager from those survival kits that you get, but it's one thin wire with one set of grooves in them, and they don't seem to hold up very well. The back of it shows an example how you can put it between a stick and use it that way, which is probably the best way. The best use for this would probably be to build a buck saw frame out of wood and then use the key rings for the saw blade so it stays in the wooden buck saw frame. This wire saw doesn't even have rings. It has these handles, but it does have more wires in it, so it's a little bit better. So if that's all you had, that's all you'd have. You'd have to use it. But this other one, probably the best one. This one has more wires in it, like the other one. It's more sturdy. And there's swivels here, so there's less chance of breaking it. And these key rings are way more stout than the other key rings, especially the ones that were broken before. The little wire saw could possibly help you make a buck saw of your own, but you might want to go to something a little bit more robust. So this is that pocket chainsaw, and it works decent. but it has its limitations like anything else. So one more option, but this might be more of a tool to make a tool. I like that big, longer buck saw better, even though this blade is not nose to fingertip. It still has some decent cutting surface, but I still got to work on this to see if I actually like it. I haven't had it long enough to know. Alright, so here's a cute little Ferro-rod, and because it's cold, it's hard for me to hold it, and I can try to strike it, and it barely strikes anything. I could try to use the blade side since the blade is ruined. Okay, so I could get a spark, but maybe I could light a fire drop, but I don't think we want to risk our lives with only this. It would be a backup chance, but I just dropped it in the snow. How am I going to find it? That's another issue. I luckily found this in the snow, but how am I going to find this? If I had something larger, I have a much better chance of finding it if I dropped it in the snow or in leaves or in grass. So this little cuteness idea of everything so cute and tiny, it can get you killed. My fingers are having a hard time holding on to this, so that's also against me. So you need a regular size, like fit in a hand kind of ferro rod. Survival bracelets have ferro rods on them, so that's also an option. So I can strike the ferro rod with the striker on the survival bracelet. Not all survival bracelets have the ferro rod. This should be enough to strike a fire drop and light it, but what happens? The sides break off fairly easily. Sometimes the ferro rod comes out. Sometimes the striker comes out. So it's easy to lose this. So yes, it's a kind of a backup, nice to have kind of thing, but would you put all your eggs in one basket and all your hopes in this is going to work? It's kind of cute, and it does work, but would this get you killed? There's times where it's like I've been trying to strike it, and that ferro rod flies out, and I'm like, now what do I do? Or the ferro rod breaks off. Then what do I do? So your gear matters so much, especially in these conditions. Right now my hands are cold, so I need to go by the fire and warm them up. I got a Fatwood ferro rod fire starter, but unfortunately it snapped off and broke. I could probably get by with whatever I had left, but why would I do that? I need to put the odds in my favor. I need to carry something more stout and rigid that hasn't been used so much. That one was for training, but when I know I'm going out in the bush, I've got to carry something strong and dependable. Same thing with a knife. I have a fixed blade knife here, full tang. The thickness of the blade is significantly different. So the combination of this knife and this ferro rod, this Fatwood ferro rod fire starter too, that's going to be a way more dependable combination of a knife and fire than a weaker knife that could break and a ferro rod that broke. Please don't try this at home. If you're working with your knife and you accidentally get it wedged in something and you pry, it can snap off. And now you're left with a remarkably good ferro rod scraper, but barely any knife blade. In the past I have made a fire with this kind of knife blade, but carving a bow drill set with only this is a whole nother issue, and it's not preferred. You want something more stout that's not going to break. Here's another situation. Usually I like to have my thumb to thumb and the fingertips show just how long a spindle should be. So this is somewhere around that length, but a lot of people like to go, hang loose and like, oh, that's the size of a spindle. That's how big a spindle should be. Well, what happens if you use it a little bit? All of a sudden this becomes a short little stubby thing, and it's hard to see people who actually recommend this actually finish with such a stubby little spindle. So you got to have a nice size spindle, not a cute little spindle that's, hang loose and cool to say. If you use this one, you're going to be drilling really close to the ground. Another situation I want to address is like these little Tinder bundles or fine kindling bundles. I mean, look, this is really cute and nice, but on a day like this, these trees are iced up. What happens? I'm probably going to burn through this quite quickly, so is it going to work for me? Cute and nice, yes, it shows, oh, look at the mastery, but you don't play around on a day like this. You get yourself a real bundle of kindling. Look, I dropped some of that accidentally, and now I'm left with such a little bit of fine kindling that I don't know if it would work for me. It's like your life insurance. So the better quality gear you have, the better chances you'll make it, actually. There it is. There's a lot more material to burn, a lot more material to take time to heat up, and a lot more material to start a fire with. That's why we use a larger tinder bundle, especially in these rough conditions, not these cute little tinder bundles. Here's something else. Dryer lint. People love dryer lint. It's like, oh, it's good stuff. And it works. I can't say anything against it. It works. But again, this is cute. It's a nice little thing to do. But, well, if you're going out in the woods in harsh conditions, why not take a fire drop like we talked about? Or even a fire drop extreme. That's going to make sure that you can start that emergency fire. Lint does work, but how good is it? It has its limitations. Let's fluff this up to be fair. Okay, it lit, and I can feel some heat, but this is going to burn out really quick. Would it be enough to start a fire? Yeah, reasonably possible, but it's going to burn out really quick, so it's not going to compare to a fire drop, and there is no way it can compare to fire drop extreme, so pick and choose carefully what you take out in the woods. This is already kind of running out. The same cute little gear can be applied to sleeping bags. I was teaching a survival course, and somebody slept through the night, said, you know what, I got through the night, but it was kind of chilly, so I wish I would have had a thicker, warmer sleeping bag. So that was good training. Yes, that sleeping bag that person had was small and cute, and it worked, but, well, the fact is, if conditions were worse, that person would have needed a far better sleeping bag. So that was the purpose of training, so that was great. Same thing with compasses. You might have a small compass, a button compass, which can give you some general ideas, but don't you think it'd be much better off with a real compass, lensatic or base plate compass? So also something to think about. Let's talk about something else, hydration. You can boil water and meet your water needs with a little mug like this, but if you have something larger, like a Morse pot, that's about close to 2 liters, you could actually meet your water needs a whole lot easier and more efficiently. And you can cook in this. You can cook in this, but smaller stuff. I made hot chocolate because it's freezing today, literally, so I'm going to enjoy it. Oh, yeah. Well, that makes all this filming worthwhile out here because it's been a cold one. I want to thank all my subscribers, everybody who watched. Thank you very much. Keep on drilling.